You ever notice how every so-called perfect American family has at least one deep crack hiding behind the white picket fence? Mine looked shiny on the outside. Suburban two-story mortgage payments that made me cry into so inside. Family barbecues where neighbors praised my wife's potato salad as if it was a Michelin star dish. And me, the loyal husband grinding at a corporate office that smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. If Norman Rockwell painted us, we'd look flawless. But underneath, I was living in a sitcom scripted by the devil, laugh track included. My wife, Claire, played the role of doting suburban goddess. Yoga pants, Starbucks cup, Instagram happy family posts with captions like #blessed. But here's the joke. While she was hashtagging love of my life, she was sneaking into the office of the man who signed my paychecks. Yeah, my boss. The guy with a Rolex that probably cost more than my car. And this wasn't some Lifetime movie affair where they whisper, "We can't do this" in candlelight. No. According to what I found out later, she was sneaking into his office on her errand days, closing the blinds, and treating his mahogany desk like it was the honeymoon suite at the Four Seasons. Betrayal wrapped in cheap office carpet. You want to talk about toxic love? This wasn't even love. It was office supply closet-level cheating, complete with a stapler falling to the floor mid-act. How do I know? Well, weeks ago I started seeing cracks in the timeline, like some Marvel multiverse glitch. Claire came home one night smelling like cologne that screamed midlife crisis executive. My boss, Richard, the kind of guy who used synergy unironically, was suddenly way too friendly to me in the break room, asking if I was getting enough quality family time. Family, he said, while probably zipping up his fly under his mahogany desk 30 minutes earlier. At first, I thought I was losing it. Maybe paranoia. Maybe I watched too many true crime podcasts come to life. But then the conspiracy board in my head started forming. Red string, push pins, receipts from Target where Claire claimed she bought candles, but the timestamp matched the late-night security log of Richard's office. It was like I stumbled into my own private episode of Dateline NBC, and I couldn't unsee it. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was cosmic. Imagine busting your back to provide for your family, only to find your wife was busy creating infidelity Olympics in the same building where you grind out emails at 2 a.m. That's not marriage. That's performance art of humiliation. The worst part? The office staff knew. Oh yeah, apparently everyone knew except me. Karen from accounting whispered like she was narrating a soap opera. The janitor gave me this pity look while mopping the hallway. Even the vending machine seemed to spit out my Cheetos slower, like it was judging me. You ever been the last person to get the joke? That was me. America loves a hero, but it also loves a fool, and guess who was starring in that role? Still, I'm not the kind of guy to just sit in my recliner, drink Miller Lite, and cry into reruns of Friends. Nah. Revenge started brewing the moment I connected the dots. Not the kind of revenge where you throw her clothes on the lawn while blasting country music, but surgical, cinematic revenge, the kind Scorsese would have directed if he ever made a suburban betrayal movie. Weeks ago, I caught them. Not red-handed, no, that would have been too merciful. I let them think I was blind. I played the loyal husband role, smiled at family dinners, nodded when Claire said she was going shopping. Shopping for what, Claire? Desk polish? What kind of man walks in on his cheating wife with his boss and just lets it go? Not me. My American dream had turned into American betrayal, and I was ready to flip the script. Because when your wife sleeps with your boss in his office, you don't just file for divorce quietly. No, you plan, you plot, you wait for the day when both of them feel the burn of humiliation. And me? I had weeks to make sure that day would come. I didn't plan to become the Watergate of suburban marriage, but once you smell your boss's cologne on your wife's scarf, you either buy denial in bulk at Costco or you start pinning yarn on a corkboard like a true crime podcaster who lost custody of his free time, so I chose the latter and hired my first asset for the operation. Earl, the night janitor with a NASCAR mustache, a quiet sense of justice, and a key ring that could open Fort Knox. Earl loved two things, black coffee and the rule that disrespecting a man's family was the lowest act in America, which meant, when I asked if he'd seen anything weird after hours on the executive floor, he sipped his coffee and said, "Son, I've seen printers tell the truth when people won't." And that's how I learned the color laser in Richard's office had been spitting out receipts for a wellness motel on Thursdays, which coincidentally were Claire's self-care nights. And when Earl showed me a crumpled sticky note with Claire's phone number in my boss's handwriting, a calm fell over me. Not the Zen kind, more like the quiet before a tornado parks itself on your lawn and rearranges your definition of normal. American life has its rituals, Little League, HOA newsletters, pumpkin spice. Mine became lurking in a dim hallway after midnight, listening to fluorescent lights buzz like they were gossiping about my future. And I felt ridiculous until the elevator chimed and I slipped into the conference room closet with Earl's master key still warm in my palm. From inside the slats I could see everything. The glass wall of Richard's corner office, the trophy shelf, the framed MBA diploma that looked like a participation award for hubris. And then the door opened. Laughter slipped out like perfume, and Claire appeared in a coat too fancy for errands and sneakers too quiet for honesty, followed by Richard with his executive swagger and a tie loose like ethics in a tech startup. And yes, my heart tried to file for early retirement, but my brain told it to stay. Because this was the moment the world decided if I was the guy who shrugs at cheating or the guy who gives betrayal a name and a timestamp. I wish I could say I stormed in like a cowboy in a western and delivered a monologue about honor and family, but I didn't. I recorded, phone on silent, second phone as backup, tiny audio recorder Earl lent me humming like a cricket. And what I captured wasn't romance, it was performance art of infidelity. The kind of toxic love that feeds on convenience and fluorescent lighting, punctuated by Richard's idiot whisper, misquoting Shakespeare, and Claire giggling in a tone I hadn't heard since our honeymoon, only now it came with lies baked in. And I'll be honest, the pain was surgical, like someone rearranged my ribs and told me to keep breathing, but the absurdity kept me steady. The desk lamp flickering like it objected, the blinds snapping shut as if the office didn't want to witness HR violations, the corporate slogan poster on the wall. Integrity, teamwork, trust, staring at me like an inside joke. At some point I realized I'd been holding my breath, and in the mirror's sliver I saw my face, not broken, not even angry, just awake, the way you feel after a highway near miss where the car doesn't hit you, but your soul still hears the horn for days. And in that stillness I understood the next step wasn't rage, it was craft, not a bar fight, a blueprint, not loud, precise. Like the calm judge at a barbecue competition who knows exactly what temperature wins, so I backed out of the closet, slipped down the stairwell, and left the building with evidence humming in my pocket, and a plan beginning to write itself. The conspiracy energy didn't stop there, because once you notice one lie, you see the network. Text messages that read like a teen's alibi. Out late, babe. Target run. Uber receipts that led to nowhere near Target. A dry cleaning tag for a blazer Claire didn't own because it wasn't hers. It was Richard's. And the final insult? A charge at a microbrewery where I'd once pitched a campaign to the same man, now using my wife to celebrate his Friday wins. I built a file thick enough to make a lawyer smile in his sleep. Timestamps, security logs that Earl accidentally printed twice. Screenshots stored in an encrypted folder called Taxes 2017. Audio files labeled Choir Practice because even betrayal needs a hymn book. And maybe it sounds cold, but if you've ever been humiliated at scale, you learn fast that revenge isn't screaming, it's architecture. Still, satire had its place, so I started talking to the inanimate witnesses. The printer that coughed when it saw me, the water cooler that gurgled like it knew too much, even the mahogany desk I passed one morning when I arrived early and Richard hadn't. And I swear the wood grain looked tired, like it needed a cigarette and a confession. And I told that desk, hang tight, big guy, Judgment Day's coming. Because in this country, we forgive almost anything except hypocrisy dressed in a suit. At home, I played the sitcom husband so well, the laugh track would have won an Emmy. Date night flowers, light jokes about midlife, even offering to fix a cabinet just to hear Claire say, "You're so handy," while her phone buzzed face down on the counter like a snake pretending to be a paperweight. And I'd think about our childless house by choice and how we'd claimed it gave us freedom. But now I could feel the echo of a family we never had judging us from the walls, asking who taught us to treat vows like coupons, clipped and disposable. And I knew when the truth landed, it would not be a gentle thing. A week later, I tested the edges of my evidence at work by dropping a hypothetical into small talk with HR. So if someone, say, hypothetically discovered an executive was very committed to team building with a subordinate, what's the policy? And the HR rep laughed, then didn't, then asked if I was joking, and I said, America is built on second chances, but not eighth ones. And she blinked slow like a cat seeing the red dot move closer. The night after that, I met Earl in the parking lot and handed him a thermos with better coffee than he drinks, and he handed me a key fob that, in his words, opens the truth. And I drove home with the calm certainty of a man who knows the finale is already written. He just has to show up for the taping. Do I feel ugly saying I'm ready for revenge? Sure, a bit. But betrayal paints you into a corner, and revenge is sometimes the only door out. And while I don't worship it, I respect its symmetry, because in this great, complicated, ridiculous country where we pledge allegiance to second chances and also to public scandal, there's a quiet justice in letting infidelity expose itself under bright lights. And if the lights happen to be at the company's annual gala with a slideshow and a microphone, well, that's not my fault. That's just excellent event planning. By the time most people in my neighborhood were raking leaves and drinking pumpkin spice lattes, I was constructing what could only be described as a suburban Cold War, except my nuclear arsenal was a thumb drive full of betrayal, and my launch button was patience. You think revenge happens in a flash, like smashing her car windows or posting screenshots online, but in America, we industrialize everything, even revenge. So I drafted spreadsheets, PowerPoints, and flowcharts like I was planning a Fortune 500 merger, except instead of quarterly profits, my KPI was watching Claire and Richard's lives implode in high definition. Every evening I'd sit in my man cave with a beer, ESPN murmuring in the background, and refine the plan. Step 1. Protect myself legally because infidelity is messy but lawsuits are worse. Step 2. Maximize humiliation because betrayal without an audience is just a sad secret. Step 3. Exit gracefully like Sinatra in Vegas. Head held high, smoke machine optional. The irony, my wife kept playing her role so poorly it was almost comedy. She'd come home in a Target bag disguise, humming like she'd been shopping for scented candles, except the receipt in her purse showed craft cocktails at a rooftop bar downtown. 2 drinks, 1 appetizer, and a line item literally labeled shared plate. Shared plate. What kind of married woman comes home smelling like artisanal sliders and tries to pass it off as soy candles? The sitcom laugh track in my head was running overtime. I'd sit across the dinner table, nodding, chewing overcooked chicken, and thinking, wow, she really believes she's fooling me, while our dog gave me a look like, bro, I could smell betrayal 3 houses away. At the office, Richard strutted through the hall like a man who thought charisma was the same as loyalty, wearing cufflinks shaped like dollar signs as if he bought them from the infidelity starter kit aisle at Walmart. Coworkers whispered, but I acted the part of clueless employee. I shook his hand firmly, smiled at meetings, even laughed at his recycled dad jokes. America loves a good mask, and I wore mine better than Halloween at Disney. Meanwhile, my secret folder of evidence grew fat. Screenshots labeled Tax Documents 2017, audio clips disguised as Church Choir MP3, and a single video file saved as Thanksgiving Parade, which in a way it was, except the balloons were their egos and the floats were their lies. Planning the revenge became addictive, like fantasy football for the brokenhearted. I started imagining scenarios at stoplights, in grocery aisles, even during Sunday football. Should I reveal the affair at the company gala with a slideshow titled Integrity? A Love Story? Or at our annual neighborhood barbecue, microphone in hand, flipping burgers while narrating betrayal like Gordon Ramsay on a cooking show? Maybe at Christmas, slipping USB sticks into the Secret Santa gifts. Surprise! Infidelity.mp4. And watching the chaos unfold under the twinkle lights. The possibilities were endless, and the absurdity kept me sane. But underneath the satire was a slow, seething ache. Late at night, I'd lie awake in our marital bed, Claire's phone buzzing face down, and wonder how many years of my life I'd wasted on someone who treated vows like coupons, good until they expired, tossed once used. Family, loyalty, trust, weren't those supposed to be the foundation? Instead, I felt like I was living inside a parody of the American dream, where the white picket fence wasn't protection, but prison bars painted cheerful. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just hurt, it rewrites your memories. Suddenly, every road trip, every anniversary dinner, every lazy Sunday morning is poisoned by the knowledge that while you thought you were living in love, she was staging an infidelity matinee at the office. One night, I almost cracked. She came home late, hair slightly disheveled, excuses rehearsed, and I wanted to shout, to expose everything, to burn it all down. But instead I poured us wine, toasted to family, and watched her fake smile. That moment sealed it for me. Not only would I take revenge, I'd do it with such precision that it would make Watergate look like amateur improv. Because this wasn't just about cheating, it was about betrayal squared. Betrayal by the woman I promised forever to, and betrayal by the man who controlled my paycheck. That combo doesn't just sting, it creates a storm, and I was ready to let it rain. In the weeks that followed, I rehearsed my lines like a stand-up comic prepping for a Netflix special. In the shower, Richard, maybe you should explain to the board how teamwork means banging your employee's wife. In traffic, Claire, funny how Target doesn't sell hotel receipts. At the gym, to my dear coworkers, tonight's entertainment isn't karaoke, it's betrayal exposed live. Every scenario played in my head like late-night reruns, except in mine, I wasn't the punchline. And slowly, America's favorite underdog narrative began to shape itself around me. The betrayed husband, humiliated but cunning, ready to rise with a vengeance that was both righteous and hilarious. Revenge wasn't just coming, it was being catered, decorated, and scheduled with RSVP invitations. All that was left was choosing the stage. Because here's the thing, when you live through toxic love and infidelity, in the land of barbecues and football Sundays, you don't just forgive and forget. You plot, you prepare, you sharpen your narrative until it cuts like glass. And when the moment comes, you let it all out, not in silence, not in private, but in the bright, unforgiving glow of public spectacle. The stage was set. The evidence was airtight. And as Claire scrolled Instagram one night, posting a selfie captioned, "Family First," I almost laughed out loud. Because soon, very soon, family would be the last word she'd ever dare hashtag again. There is a moment in every great American revenge tale where the curtain rises, the lights come on, and the hero finally delivers the monologue he's been rehearsing in the shower for weeks. My moment came at the annual company gala, a grotesque parade of sequined dresses, rubbery chicken dinners, and executives pretending they weren't 2 martinis deep before the first award was handed out. And yes, Richard was there at the head table, cufflinks sparkling. Wife nowhere in sight, because she claimed she was home with a migraine, which was code for trying to avoid the same man's wife she'd been betraying him with. But joke's on her because she was about to become the headliner without even buying a ticket. I had smuggled in a laptop, courtesy of Earl the janitor who believed in justice more than hygiene, and plugged it into the projector while the AV kid was outside vaping. The slideshow was scheduled to run right after Richard's big integrity and leadership speech, which, I swear, the universe picked just to make me laugh. The lights dimmed, Richard strutted on stage, adjusted his tie like it had personally achieved world peace, and began spouting corporate gospel. Teamwork, family, loyalty, the same words he stomped on between quickies with my wife on his mahogany desk. I sipped my watered-down whiskey, counted the beats, and when he clicked the remote for the first slide, bam! Not the company logo, not a pie chart. No. It was a grainy but unmistakable screenshot of Claire's text. "Leaving now, can't wait for you." The crowd chuckled awkwardly, assuming it was a joke. Richard froze, clicked again. Slide 2, a receipt for the Wellness Motel, time-stamped during yoga night. Gasps rippled like a wave. Click again, an audio clip of muffled laughter and the sound of a desk groaning like it needed therapy. Someone at the back spit out their Chardonnay. By slide 5, when the office security footage flickered on screen showing 2 silhouettes that could only be Richard and Claire, the room exploded. Phones up, whispers hissing, executives leaning forward like front-row fans at a Scandal concert. Richard stammered, sweating through his Armani, mumbling about hacked files and taken out of context. Out of context? Sir, there's only one context for pants around ankles in an office with a slogan poster behind you screaming, "Integrity." I walked up, calm as a preacher on Sunday, took the mic, and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your fearless leader and my wife, Betrayal brought to you live, courtesy of corporate America." The applause wasn't polite. It was vicious, gleeful, the way Americans cheer when a baseball finally clears the fence. Someone actually shouted, "World Star!" And I knew I had transcended into meme territory. Claire, bless her clueless heart, burst through the doors mid-chaos, mascara smudged, whispering, "What's happening?" like she'd walked into the wrong episode of reality TV. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time I didn't feel anger, just comedy. She'd traded family for office quickies and ended up exposed in front of 300 people, plus the inevitable TikTok clips. Richard's career evaporated in real time, board members texting furiously, HR reps already drafting termination letters. Claire's reputation torched. Suburban whispers spread faster than wildfire in a California summer. I handed the mic back, walked off stage, and felt lighter than I had in years. Revenge wasn't sweet. It was absurd, messy, cathartic. It didn't erase the betrayal, but it made sure I wasn't the punchline anymore. The aftermath hit like a season finale. Richard resigned to spend more time with family, which was corporate speak for he's toast. Claire moved out, tried to spin the story on Facebook as toxic love gone wrong, but no one bought it. Neighbors gave me firm handshakes. Barbecues became confessional booths where everyone admitted they always suspected. And I discovered the strange American truth that scandal is the closest thing to community bonding. Divorce papers filed, assets split, and for once I didn't feel like I lost. I felt like I'd rewritten the script. And when people ask if I regret it, if revenge was worth it, I tell them this: betrayal tried to make me small. Revenge made me loud. And in a country that worships spectacle, sometimes the only way to heal is to turn your pain into a show. Did it fix my marriage? No. Did it fix my faith in people? Not really, but it gave me back my dignity with interest. So now, when I drive past the office building where it all went down, I salute the mahogany desk, the only true witness of toxic love turned infidelity scandal, and I whisper, "We did it, big guy." And somewhere in the great absurd theater of American life, I swear I hear that desk creak back. Revenge well served.